I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me. The day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship, but it is not this day. An hour of wolves and shattered shields, when the age of man comes crashing down, but it is not this day. This day we fight. By all that you hold dear on this good earth, I bid you stand. For Frodo. Ah! Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new epic movie review. And this epic movie review is going to be for a installment of a trilogy I'm currently reviewing, and it's the final installment of this trilogy. And it is, of course, the one I have been long waiting to review, because this one is a lot of things I'm going to get to in a bit. But this film is going to be for none other than what is obviously 2003's The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. The grand finale to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So, the plot of this one was, well, after 2 movies of one long journey, the final confrontation between the forces of good and evil fighting for control of the future of Middle-earth, Frodo and Sam reach Mordor in their quest to destroy the One Ring. And while Aragorn leads the forces of good against Sauron's remaining evil army at the stone city of Minas Tirith. Yeah, so, more of the production of this one, well, because all 3 of these were shot back to back, here's some more details for this one. Well, Jackson's Middle-earth was primarily designed by Alan Lee and John Ho, because they had earlier illustrated editions of Tolkien's books. They got created by Weta Workshop, who handled all the trilogy's weapons, armor, miniatures, prosthetics, and creatures. The art department built the sets. Richard Taylor headed Weta, while Grant Major and Dan Hanna organized the planning in the building. In the city of Minas Tirith, it had glimpsed briefly in both the previous 2 films, is now seen fully in this film. And with it, the Gondorian civilization. An enormous soundstage was built at Dry Creek Quarry outside Wellington from the Helm's Deep set, and that set's gig became Minas Tirith's second. And while the Homburg exterior became that of the extended edition scene, when Gandalf confronts the Witch King, its new structure includes the AM tailgate and broken and unbroken versions with a working opening and closing mechanism with its gradients inspired by the Baldrussia San Giovanni. There are also 4 levels of streets with herald motifs of every house, and it's inspired by Siena. And when it came to the Citadel's exterior was in the Stone Street Studios backlot and used forced perspective. And it contained the withered white tree, built from polystyrene by Brian Massey, and the greens department with real branches, which was influenced by ancient gnarly Bansi olive trees. And the interior was within a 3-story former factory in Wellington, and its colors were influenced by Charlemagne's chapel, and it's a throne of dignity carved from stone, a polystyrene statue of Pace Kings. The Gondorian armor was designed to represent an evolution of the nuances of the first film's prologue, and it's a simplified seabird motif. In the 16th century Italian and German armor served as inspiration, while civilians wear silver and blacks as designed by Nigel Dixon, continuing an ancient and medieval Mediterranean basil look. So, yeah. Now, for this one, this film was completely marketed all of 2003, and was really hyped up by fans of the first 2 movies. The Return of the King, like the other 2, was financed and distributed by American studio New Line Cinema, but it was filmed and edited entirely in Jackson's native New Zealand, concurrently with the other 2 parts of the trilogy. The film would go on to have its premiere at the Embassy Theatre in Wellington on December 1st, 2003, and was then released worldwide into theaters on December 17th, 2003 in the United States, but like the others, it was released a day later on December 18th, 2003 in New Zealand. And so, since this was the third film of the series, it had a bit of fears with people how it would live up. Guess what, guys? It was acclaimed by both critics and audiences. Like the other two movies, it's also considered a landmark in filmmaking and the fantasy film genre, and it was seen as a satisfying conclusion to the trilogy, with praise for the visual effects, performances, action, direction, screenplay, score, costume design, emotional depth, scope, and story. At the box office, it earned even more than the other two movies, and at the time became the second film to earn the second highest grossing film worldwide during the time it released, with $1.1 billion worldwide. And it was obviously the highest grossing film of 2003. And it was the highest grossing film ever made by New Line Cinema. And like the previous films of the trilogy, Return of the King is recognized as one of the greatest, most influential films ever made. It received numerous accolades at the 76 Academy Awards, and guess what, guys? It didn't just get nominated for numerous Academy Awards, which was 11 of them. It won all 11 awards for which it was nominated, including Best Picture of even. It was the first fantasy film to do so, and it literally tied with other films like 1959's Ben-Hur, and James Cameron's shitty-ass Titanic movie from 1997 as the movie with the most Academy Award wins. And it also became the second film series whose every single entry have won Best Visual Effects after the original Star Wars trilogy. Now, as for my reaction, this is, no doubt, many things. It's not just the best film of the trilogy. It is the best fantasy movie ever made, the best third entry ever made, the best film of 2003, the best film by Peter Jackson, the best Picture winner, and also the second greatest movie of all time and the greatest film of the 2000s. I absolutely adore this movie, and it's a perfect example of how to end a film trilogy and give it a worthy send-off. This is a journey that lasted 2 years, getting the cap off fans that were long waiting for ever since 2001 when that first film came out, and boy did it deliver. Fans were praying this would not face the curse of third entries, especially because a month before this, Matrix Revolutions released, and it did not, and it got reviled by people everywhere. So fans were hoping Return of the King would not face the same fate, and it didn't. It did not face the third entry curse at all. It's one of the rare times where the third entry is actually the best. Just lots of people were worried after The Two Towers' Battle of Helm's Deep. How is Peter Jackson going to top that great battle? With Return of the King, he easily topped it alright. The battle for Middle-earth is something you've never seen before. It's the greatest moment when the writers are all in charge. It's really a moment in which you feel the true meaning of fighting and dying with honor. And it's a great moment during the immensely large battle where the fights against the Oliphants. And just when you thought the battle was over, those large creatures fucking appear. Really great moments. And there's never been a cinematic endeavor based on a more daunting or more beloved literal work. There have never been motion pictures of the magnitude undertaken by Peter Jackson and his production team. The Lord of the Rings trilogy definitely is forever going to endure as one of the most bold and honest enterprises in the history of cinema. And it's quite simply a seminal event. Other projects this caused other projects to be considered and attempted. Some have failed trying to adopt Lord of the Rings as success. Some have almost come close, but no, Lord of the Rings can never be topped at all. They could never challenge Lord of the Rings' complexities. It was very unlikely to ever happen, and it never happened. And all the threads of Tolkien's magnum opus come together in the most elegant of fashions for the final part of Peter Jackson's adaptation. Manny makes a last stand of Minas Tirith, and the hobbits travel through Mordor. Our heroes try to buy the time for Frodo and Sam to complete their mission, and the evil Sauron gets tired of the whole game the Fellowship is playing with him, and he lashes out with all his might in his fury. At this point, everyone has come to know and love all of the characters, and the stakes have become tremendously high for all of them. Kingdoms are at their knees, and the only two characters who can save the day are getting weaker and weaker. The tension is very high in this episode, and honestly, out of all the three, this is the one that even 20 years later has me on the edge of my seat. There's many memorable scenes that made this the classic that ended up staying a classic for decades to come, and it will forever be one. And let me tell you this, guys. Surprisingly, for a PG-13 movie, this movie is easily the darkest, scariest, and most violent of the trilogy. Not just that, guys. It's probably one of the darkest movies ever made. And it's one of the darkest, scariest, and actually surprisingly really most violent PG-13 movies out there. Big example of this being the scariest of the trilogy, not just because the stakes are high, but it's the way the movie starts. You know that origin scene of him, Gollum, that was going to actually be the start of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, the previous entry? Well, that idea was scrapped. Instead, Peter Jackson decided to have that start off this movie. And what we get here is a very terrifying origin for one of the greatest CGI characters of cinema. He wasn't always just that scrawny creature you're all familiar with that eats fish and says, "My precious," who's obsessed with the ring, and has that funny other person, and has some funny moments here and there. No. This guy, it starts off with a time when he'd actually used to be a hobbit. And we get to know how he found the ring. In Fellowship, he may seem like he was always this creature and he just found the ring inside a cave. No. How he found it was, him and his cousin named Deagle were out fishing for Smeagol's birthday, and then suddenly, one huge fish got a bite of Deagle's fishing line and dragged Deagle into the water with it. And he lost his fishing rod. Instead, what he ended up finding and coming back with was that very ring that fell into the water after the orcs killed its original owner during Fellowship of the Ring's beginning. When Deagle came out of the water, Smeagol found him and demanded to let him see the ring and give it to him. When Deagle refused and asked why, Smeagol's like, "It's my birthday, and I want it." Smeagol was already, even though not holding the ring was already long possessing his mind quick. So, Deagle refused to let him see the ring because it was possessing both of them. Smeagol then strangled Deagle to death. After the ring's power possessed both of them, Smeagol then called it a precious, which started the tagline, "My precious," and he put the ring on and he disappeared. And after that, we then cut to Gollum literally tripping into the dark woods. And at first it seems like, I didn't know this for years. At first I just thought the ring randomly transports him to the dark woods, randomly when he disappeared, when he first put it on. I kind of felt that ring just sent him there, randomly just transported him all the way to the forest, but no. We actually do hear as if it's like Gollum narrating this scene to the audience. And it's literally, in the narration, the creepy narration Gollum gives as if he's telling the whole audience this. It's that the Shire, either the Shire or another Hobbit village, long before Bilbo or Frodo even existed or were even born, either one of the two casted him out and banished him when they found out he murdered Deagle. And thus, he was forced to survive in the woods all alone, eating nothing but raw fish, and due to the ring slowly transform, and because the ring prevents you from dying of age, prevents you from aging at all, it literally transformed him into the scrawny creature that we are all familiar with. Yeah, and it ended with his eyes turning into the iconic buggy eyes we're all familiar with. So yeah, that right there, guys, And we all know he'd later go on to eat also not just fish even, he'd also would eat goblins that would fall into his cave as established in the Hobbit trilogy. So it was fish and goblins he had to rely on. And yeah, he wasn't always that creature, that CGI creature we're familiar with. This scene, it is very haunting, and actually, at first, it feels like you're not even watching a Lord of the Rings movie. It feels like you're legitimately watching a legit horror film. It really captures the scary transformation of Gollum, and it shows who he originally was before he found the ring. And from there, that scene just tells you this movie is not going to be any more lighter than the other two movies, because now we're getting closer to Mordor. Things are actually going to get very intense for Frodo and Sam quick. And since Frodo's getting closer to Mount Doom, the ring is gonna start possessing him more and more he gets closer. It was gonna get very bad for everybody. Return of the King, but though, even after that opening, we then get into the epicness, and the 4 hours or 3 hours of payoff depending which version you watch. It's a third act in a gigantic epic rather than a mere film on its own. It is intensely dramatic and dynamic, and you can very much sense through Peter Jackson. No one's spared no effort on the previous episodes. It's clearly his favorite. The film floats by at a thunderous pace. It takes us through unforgettable moments like the battle minus Tirith, a marvel seamless animation and epic filmmaking. It demands to be seen, and it has too many jaw-dropping moments to choose from. The quieter character moments keep gaining in potency, and the full weight of the stakes and their heartbreaking consequences is never in doubt. And the cast of these movies, man. The cast of these movies, they have all played their parts to perfection, and again, Peter Jackson deserves the credit for choosing actors that so perfectly match Tolkien's creations. Ian McKellen and Christopher Lee are their own usually excellent selves, and the Hobbits definitely remain endearing, but all the informally great cast, like the true standouts are easily Viggo Mortensen and David Wenham as the tragic Faramir, whose relationship with his British father is the most dramatic of the film. And Jackson pushes them ever further by having them sing at a few key moments. And during undertaking that works wonders, and though he does offer one ending too many, it has a decency to show off each surviving character with the appropriate screen time and respect, and that crew just once again creates this mythical world without a trace of fictiousness. For the jaw-dropping visualization, massive battles, the fortresses, monsters, and more, the cinematography effects uphold and improve the standards set by the predecessors, and Gollum now has more to work with as an actor, and the digital stuff step up to the challenge. They blend him into the shots perfectly, and especially in a brilliant reflection scene where we see his two personalities, and as if they're both separate. One half is the Smeagol half, the other half is the treacherous Gollum half. And the more sweeping battle scenes and the gorgeous landscapes are easily among the stellar shots lensed by Andrew Lesnie. And the first shot of Minas Tirith stands out. That first shot of Minas Tirith is easily probably the best film shot anybody got in 2003. It takes your breath away, and the beauty lies in the fact that you scarcely know the difference between beautiful reality and equally natural effects. And outside of these couple apparent blue screen shots, like you'll never doubt the diversity of the world of Middle Earth and the enormity of that task. And those that went a workshop who dazzled us with their talent, they definitely deserved all the awards they got. Now on the musical front, Howard Shore in this one, yeah, he's back as composer, and his work shines as never before. He provides grand and booming orchestral sounds when battles require them, and he still manages to evoke emotion without lapsing into melodrama during poignant scenes. And the mixing and tweaking familiar themes with new melodies even, and Shore hits all the right notes. And for the audience, picking out recognizable themes like the Roan of the Fellowship, and hearing how Shore has kicked them into this minor key or altered those last two notes is a thrill. His score in these movies is absolutely a joy to listen to, because it seamlessly meshes with the film and on its own. Perhaps there could definitely be no higher compliment right there. And also of note, it's the use of the vocal music voiced by the actors themselves. It's a technique that's that's definitely was new at the time when these movies came out. That the two songs, like the first song, which gets utilized in a stunning maximum effect, it's a remarkable scene that's reminiscent of The Godfather, my favorite movie of all time. The song gets sung over a scene that cuts literally between a character who makes a decision, the grim consequences of that choice. That the music, pictures, and variation of film speed combined for one of the best scenes of the year. And as with the first two, yeah, the film is very long, but it goes by without ever truly realizing it. This film is so much more than a simple fantasy epic. It's a story about strength in character, friendship, loyalty, and love, and every member of the Fellowship has their part to play. You understand why some critics do say this series is a story about Sam. It's his unwavering resolve that led to the quest and its victory. Like, Sean Astin is definitely a credit for adding inspirational heart to this epic trilogy. As far as the ending goes, they ended it the way it had to be ended. Jackson ended the film the way it should have been. And then, of course, you got the special effects. They are excellent. There's few things that, like, you have a reverse shot with smoke flowing back into chimneys or occasional lighting that's a bit off, and by and large, they're excellent. And the most impressive thing about them is the sheer scale. It isn't a small or simple scene. Like, it includes thousands of digital characters combined with filmed actors in action, and sweeping landscapes and dozens of things happening at once. It's definitely a good reef. Like, you can definitely see why a lot of people really enjoyed seeing this in theaters. Like, regardless, when it came out, like, even on DVD, it still feels like you're watching an epic in the cinema, regardless of where you watch it. Whether it's a fan event re-release, which happens every year or so, or on your own DVD or Blu-ray, it actually feels like you're in a cinema regardless where you are. The filming is that good. There's definitely a few evidences of digital smoothing and cutting that can nag at the mind or eyes of some picky moviegoers, but there's definitely a lot of interesting shots. They're playing straight on, the pointing across without being dazzling, and New Zealand's landscapes provide this great backdrop of everything going on. And there really are some beautiful places, and especially when you have the mountains. And the sound has been does make like 75% of the emotional impact of any production, and it's definitely allowed 75%. Like, all the sound effects are well pulled off, they sound appropriate, and are generally loud. The Nazgul screeching can be definitely painful to sensitive ears, and it's in a good way. Everything has a distinct sound, and it's rare that anything feels out of place. And some of the battles, like the roof of the theater was shaking, like some of the battles too, even, are very groundbreaking to watch. The soundtrack even fits the movie well. And Howard Shore does this very excellent job, as he did with the last two films in this series. And like, the performances, they're all still good. The actors perform their roles perfectly here, and it comes away giving a good picture of the characters. And now, when it comes to Frodo Baggins's like performance here, Elijah Wood, this one, he gives an unparalleled performance as Frodo Baggins. Like, Frodo's gradual deterioration is wrenching to watch, and the climax scene at Mountain displays just what the ring can do to even the pure-hearted hobbits. And Sean Astin follows up with his powerful performance as Sam, who is now increasingly the strong hobbit rather than the follower in this one. And the final scenes between these two outstanding actors are beautiful and understated. But all the supporting cast give good performances too. Like, Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan, they put their characters through some intense growing pains, and I'm going to take care of you scene, it's definitely enough to breed tears in your eyes in the moments. Especially when it comes to characters who are the comic relief source of this trilogy. And Viggo Mortensen gets more kingly every moment. And while Ian McKellen balances action and grandfatherly wisdom, Bernard Hilda also has this quiet, moving final scene, and Murata Otto makes a despairing Elwyn a strong kick by heroine in this movie even. And because basically, a major achievement of this epic installment is the character development. Like here, Gollum here in this one, he's now more cunning and sneaky than ever, and he manages to turn Frodo against Sam, who Sam in this one is desperately trying his best to get the quest over with so he can get his old Frodo back. Merry and Pippin in this one, they're no longer just a source of comic relief here. Both of them actually prove themselves worthy as they are split up for the final battle. And we learn about the true bravery and potential of hobbits as Merry helps cut down the Witch King. And Alwyn even proves herself in this film. She defies her uncle, she sets out to Pelennor Fields with the other Roman, and eventually destroys the Witch King herself. And it seems like a feminist remark, but it's not an overly preachy one. It actually works here. And then we learn to loathe Denethor because of his hatred of his last remaining son, Faramir, who definitely has not done anything wrong here. The peak of our hatred of Denethor is reached in a scene where it tells Faramir that he would have preferred it if he had died instead of Boromir, his own brother. And then right after that, Denethor sends Faramir to Sauron's suicide, and Faramir immediately accepts the mission he is appointed to in his final attempt to please his father. And of course, Aragorn learns to pretty much accept his fate as the true king of men by the time his journey starts to end. Like, the character development in these movies is so powerful that we actually like to participate in characters' feelings. We feel Frodo's exhaustion and agony as he drags himself across Mordor. We feel Sam's pain as Frodo is turned against him like Gollum. And briefly, we actually participate in Gollum's triumph as he actually gets the One Ring. Some of us may feel happy for Gollum this moment for a brief moment, and for a brief moment, Frodo tries to reclaim it for himself. All in all, Return of the King contains the most moving, emotional, and touching scenes of the entire trilogy. Some of the best acting, especially from Wood, Aston, Kellen, Morrison, Miranda Otto, and of course Andy Serkis. It all really works and pays off well. And of course they ended up totally topping that battle of Helm's Deep, because this one we have the Battle of Pelennor Fields. And it's another one of the most spectacular and epic sequences in film history. Pelennor Fields definitely shows the true cleverness of Sauron's army. The orcs are not the only participants here, like we've seen with all the other battles of the movies. This one, we have trolls heavily used in the battle as warriors and beasts of burden. The Nazgul are more significant in this battle. And while the Witch King definitely didn't actually doesn't lead the battle here, which he kind of should have, the 9 Ringrafts and their felled beasts still play a key part, and they do lots of damage in the battle. We know how powerful the Nazgul really are in it by the time this movie happens. And of course, the men from the south and their massive Olifants, who we saw briefly in the 2 towers, they play a significant part in this battle. They whack the riders off their horses to the side as they march through their army. And while the Battle of Helm's Deep, it wasn't the final battle of the series, but it ended triumphantly. Pelennor Fields, we do feel the triumph briefly, but as soon as then the Roman make their charge into the horde of orcs and trolls. And then the triumph of Pelennor Fields immediately dissolves, because the Romer get whacked to the side and trampled down by the Olifants. But the battle is still won. But we're not happy. Even after the Witch King is defeated, the battle seems like the battle's over. It's victorious, but it's not a happy resolve. We have to grieve for the destruction of the soldiers and all the losses. It's a different feeling than that of Helm's Deep. And it actually kind of makes this battle even more superior. And that fight you get in the battle between Elwyn and Merry and the Witch King, it's actually surprisingly an epic female lead fight. And this is back when they were actually epic and deserving of that title. This was back when those fights were not all woke and half-assed like today in most films, especially the Marvel ones. This fight was very well earned. Like, in the best part of it, the Witch King is known to have nobody defeat him. No man can defeat the Witch King. He even gains the upper hand on Elwyn briefly and says that no man could kill him, but then Elwyn takes off her helmet, reveals herself and says, "I am no man," and stabs the Witch King's face, finally destroying him. Now that right there is one of the most phenomenal quotes of this series. There's a lot of phenomenal quotes, and that is one of them. This movie even has the most phenomenal quotes. You get the most magnificent visuals in the entire trilogy even, whether that's Minas Tirith, Pelennor Fields, or Osgiliath, Mordor, and the slopes of Mount Doom, and that climb to Shelof's Cave near Minas Mogul. Peter Jackson really shows us the true impact of the landscapes and images. And as we all know, Peter Jackson has this hobby of making us fear bugs. Because this movie is no exception. Because you know that giant fucker Shelob, who Gollum referenced in the credits, in the cliffhanger of the 2 towers, she finally shows up here. Because that is where Gollum was planning to lead them to this entire movie. But in order for this plan to work though, Gollum has to quickly do away with Sam first, because Sam is already onto him during his conversation with the Gollum personality. Gollum has to get rid of Sam, so he decides to frame Sam, because Sam is onto Gollum's deception and Sam has never liked him at all upon when they ever first met him, for obvious reasons. So he frames Sam for eating the remaining food they have left, and then by crumbling a bit of it onto Sam's jacket, and he just throws it off the cliff and wastes it. and desiring to take the ring, and because Frodo is influenced by the growing power of the ring, Frodo is literally taken into deception or Sam to go home. Like, first, like how the scene goes is he discovers all the bread is gone, and Sam accuses Gollum of taking it, but Gollum's like, Smeagol hates nasty all the bread. What's this? Crumbs. Crumbs on his deck, it says. He took it. He took it. And to be fair, it does kind of crack me up the way he kind of does say that. Not gonna lie, but yeah, but Frodo obviously is now influenced by the growing power of the ring. He orders Sam to go home. So now it's just Frodo and Gollum left on that part of his story arc. Gollum pretty much tricks Frodo into venturing to the lair of the Shelob spider. So Shelob attacks Frodo, but Frodo nearly escapes and he confronts Gollum. And he tries to do the Smeagol thing to apologize and get away with it again. Frodo's like, I have to destroy it. I have to destroy it, Smeagol, for our own sake. That makes Smeagol or Gollum mad. Fully just Gollum at this rate, mad, and tries to attack Frodo again. But Frodo causes him to fall down a chasm after a scuffle. And so now Frodo is forced to continue to mount him all alone after realizing he should have listened to Sam. But Shelob is not fucking done with him just yet. Shelob continues to chase in secret, and easily you get one of the scariest scenes in cinema history. Shelob is right behind him. He's unaware of it. She's like crawling over him, just slowly, trying not to make herself discovered. And when Frodo has his back turned, she gets her stinger out, paralyzes him, and then binds Frodo. But before Shelob can finish off Frodo, you then get an epic moment where Sam had discovered like all the bread being wasted and realizes Gollum had actually set this all up to get rid of Sam. This makes Sam furious. He then decides to go back Frodo's path and keep climbing back up the stairs again. And then he discovers Shelob. He wounds Shelob, and then says, "Let her go, you filth." And he drives Shelob away. Then it seems like Frodo is dead. He then mourns him and he takes the ring. But then a group of orcs takes Frodo captive, and Sam realizes his mistake, and then he manages to go rescue Frodo as the orcs fight among themselves over Frodo's clothing. And that sequence alone really solidifies why I love the friendship of Sam and Frodo in these three movies. Here, Sam, like most of these three movies, Sam was usually the lack of confidence pacifist when we first meet him at the start of the trilogy, but not here. In this film, his character development has finally paid off after Sam has gone through so much shit in these three movies and being pushed around by many foes and Gollum even. He's now an outright badass. He's done fucking around and is not sparing a single orc or foe that comes his path. He's mad at them because he thinks they probably destroyed the Shire. So one of his quotes is, "That's for the Shire." Even when he's attacking the orcs, then he rescues Frodo, and then they continue their journey to Mount Doom as they're getting much closer to it. And the orcs did not even take the ring when they took Frodo captive because Sam already took it before the orcs even showed up. And also, you even get good character development for Merry and Pippin too. Like in the first two, in a brief bit in the beginning of the movie, they're the comic reliefs that like to cause trouble and mischief when you first met them in Fellowship. But then after Pippin grabs the Sauron ball to look at it because he gets too curious, like they have to evacuate now Pippin because now Sauron thinks Pippin has the ring, and even Merry's a little annoyed with him for doing so because it now means Sauron's going to be looking for Pippin. He thinks Pippin has the ring, and now have to be separated. Like in their subplot, they really mature in the rest of the film when they have to get dragged into the battles in their areas. And it's a very perfect story arc for these two in this movie, and it really sends off their character development. And Jackson's great triumph is that even with all the CGI wonders, his film does not neglect its characters. In particular, the relationship between Gandalf and Pippin, Elwyn and Theoden, and of course Frodo and Sam, each resonates in the memory. And even in the midst of the battle, Jackson focuses on the people which he has invested so much time and care for. Like, sadly, Hollywood today is definitely blind to the possibility of overwhelming spectacle coexisting with human elements. An intercutting between the battle in front of the Black Gate and desperate struggles at the Crack of Doom is stunning, and it adds to the tension of the viewer. The expressions on the faces of each of the Fellowship members underlining what a tour de force of storytelling the movie is. The relationship between Frodo and Sam becomes a centerpiece of this movie more and more as it goes on, and that's the way it should be. Because their parting at the Grey Heavens is the last act of the story, and the action shows his sensitivity that Tolkien is still there. In spite of the harsh verdicts of many who disapprove of the changes from the book to the film, for those who have read the book, and the claimer that there's too many endings in this movie, no. That's kind of a lame criticism. I'm going to get to that in a bit, but the finale of this movie, the finale to the final battle or the climax of this film, it's fucking epic. Because after we just witnessed the Battle of the Pelennor Field and Sam rescuing Frodo from Shelob, and then rescuing Frodo from the orcs, even, we then get back to the whole aftermath of the Battle of the Field, and Aragorn, it decides that they could give Frodo a chance to get to Mount Doom. They still have a bit of an army left, and they decide to take the battle to the Black Gate. And Aragorn then immediately gives one of the most Oscar-deserving performances in his battle speech to the remaining soldiers they have left. And then he says the most perfect battle-leading words for Frodo. And before Avengers Endgame, the portals reveal, this was what cinema goers had. Before the portals in Avengers Endgame, we had this for the 2000s. And he runs into battle. When I saw, I was at a one-night re-release screening of this in January 2019, and I kid you not, guys, even at that moment, people still cheered at almost every part of this movie. During that moment, the fan release, at the one-night re-release, the whole theater turns into a stadium at the For Frodo part, right there. It shows that Lord of the Rings still has an impact to this day. And we get followed second by Merry and Pippin, and then by the rest of the army. And they decide to march on Mordor and distract Sauron from Frodo, who is now extremely weak by the ring, and of course Samwise Gamgee as well. All Sauron's remaining forces march to meet Aragorn's diversion, and allows the hobbits to reach Mount Doom now, since there's no more orcs in the area. And during Frodo and Sam's walk to Mount Doom, Frodo collapses because he's now fully weakened by the ring, and then Sam says that great quote, "I can't carry for you, but I can carry you," and then he carries Frodo to Mount Doom. But it's not all victory there, because you remember Gollum when he fell into the chasm? Well, we all thought he was dead at the time, but Peter Jackson made sure we still remember that Gollum obviously did not die from that fall. Gollum had survived his early fall. He clearly found a shorter way to Mount Doom, and since he didn't have the ring with him, he was not weakened by it, and he was able to get to Mount Doom with no problems. He took a shorter way with no orcs, and he just waited for them. He clearly just waited for Frodo and Sam to show up at any minute. And then by that time, he clearly hears them. He immediately proceeds to attack them. And during a moment in the extended cut, he does try to, which I feel like should have been in this movie, he tries to persuade Frodo not to go that way. And then literally, Frodo protests this, that Smeagol promised, but Gollum says, "Smeagol lied." And I feel like that should have stayed in the theatrical cut. It shows that Gollum is beyond irredeemable beyond this point. But during the scuffle, though, Frodo manages to make it to the Mount Doom opening, and there Sam tries telling him to destroy the ring, but Frodo is now succumbed to the ring's power and says, "The ring is mine," and he puts it on his finger, and it seems like history is going to repeat itself with this one, and Sauron's like, "What?" That ring, the eye starts to freak out. Now he's like, "Wait, what? The rings in the Mount Doom? Get them!" And he pretty much sends the Nazgul to Mount Doom. He now realizes he's been tricked, and he realizes he's about to die. And Sauron's eye is clearly now scared for its life, realizing where the ring exactly is in that moment. And it's very intimidating right there. But then, of course, Gollum then appears again. He knocks out Sam and traces Frodo's footsteps, and he manages to bite off his finger and reclaim it. Right there. And then during the Black Gate fight, Aragorn fights a troll that, believe it or not, guys, was actually going to be Sauron's physical appearance originally. And if I'm going to be honest, I'm interested to wonder how that probably could have turned out. It probably could have been very interesting to see. Gollum and Frodo then struggle together for the ring, and they stumble off the ledge. Frodo clings onto it with one hand as remorse and guilt flood his mind in the wake of his succumbing to the ring, When Sam's unnerving faith in his friend, though, demands Frodo to reach for Sam's stretched hand, saving Frodo, and of course, he saves Frodo's life. Gollum, on the other hand, though, falls with the ring and dies in the lava. And the ring tries one last effort to keep its power alive with Frodo onto the ledge, but Frodo allegedly grabs onto Sam, and the ring loses all its power, and it causes the whole Roger to crumble, and the Eye of Sauron's like, no! As it's like screeching right there. You can tell it's like yelling no, because now the ring's been destroyed, and the army immediately starts to stop fighting, and they flee in terror because they know, all the orcs now know they're about to die. They're about to fall. Now they know, and that troll's like, uh-oh, I'm out of here. And just runs away quick before it can finish off Aragorn, and the eye collapses. And the Dark Lord's destroyed once and for all. And boy, is its death very satisfying. This scene was, when this movie came out in theaters, this scene was always known to get cheers and screams from every single audience, from people all over the theaters upon its release. And you can see why. Aragorn's army emerges victorious as the enemies and lands of Mordor collapse into the earth, and Mount Doom erupts and it kills all the remaining Nazgul just as they arrive at Mount Doom. And Frodo and Sam narrowly escape the lava. Gandalf then rescues the hobbits with the help of the eagles, and his surviving fellowship is happily reunited at Minas Tirith. Aragorn gets crowned king of Gondor, and he marries Arwen. And of course, the whole crowd actually, the four hobbits bow to Aragorn, but it's like, fools, you bow for no one. And the crowd bows to all four of them. Right there, because Frodo destroyed the ring, so they also bowed to him for destroying Sauron. Right there. And so after that, the hobbits return home to the Shire, and Sam now finally gets the confidence to marry Rosie Cotton and fall in love with her. And Fellowship, he didn't have the confidence to dance with her when Frodo tried getting him to, but he decided to go get a drink instead, because he now has a spine. He finally marries her, and 4 years later, Frodo is still plagued by the pain of his wound inflicted by the Witch King and suffering from trauma of his journey. He decides to depart Middle-earth for the Undying Lands with his uncle Bilbo, Gandalf, and the elves. And he leaves Sam the Red Book of Westmarch to finish it off, and it details all their adventures. And of course, Sam returns to the Shire. He started a family. He's married Rosie. They now have kids, and believe it or not, that kid that runs up to Samwise is actually Sean Astin's real-life daughter. And he says, I'm back. And they walk right into Frodo, and they walk right into Bilbo's home. That's now theirs. And right there, guys, is the perfect way to send off Lord of the Rings. As it says, the end, and it could never have been more satisfying place to put the end at. That final scene we see of Frodo departing Middle-earth with Gandalf, Bilbo, and the elves, it's a very heartbreaking and well-acted moment. Like, it's a scene that still brings a tear to many viewers' eyes each and every time they see it. Like, it's in a way, it's a somewhat death-like send-off of a protagonist that's actually peaceful without actually killing them off. It's not pretentious. It's not some Alien 3 or Clerks 3 bullshit. No. It's actually a more peaceful, subtle way to give a protagonist a death send-off. He's completed his journey. He's actually saved the Shire, but he just can't live with all the horrors he went through, and so he decides to leave for the Undying Immortal Lands with Gandalf and the elves and his uncle. Him and his uncle are going to live on the Undying Lands together. And so, but to cheer you guys up though, Tolkien did reveal that once Rosie did die of old age, Sam actually got to go to the Grey Havens and reunite with Frodo. So guess what? It's not too sad, because we know eventually once Rosie's gone of old age, sadly, he'll get to see Frodo again in the future. So that right there, guys, it's a beautiful ending to an epic trilogy. So it's not too tragic. Is there any bad qualities? Fuck no. Not to me there is. Because, like, one kind of for everybody, though, seems to be all the endings. But I like there's a lot of endings here. I like that this one, every character gets their story wrapped up. Aragorn becomes king. The Fellowship reunites briefly for one last moment. Sam marries Rosie after he never had the confidence to. Merry and Pippin are no longer troublemakers and are changed people now. And Bilbo actually gets to live out his life with the elves after the Hobbit trilogy, and after now age is caught up to him, he gets to live his life with the elves in the Grey Havens. And Gandalf and Frodo depart to the Grey Havens also with the elves and Bilbo. Everybody gets a great send-off. And yeah, it's 3 hours long or 4 hours depending on the version you watch, but the movie actually has a good pace. It's not like the Avatar movies, where the trailer for the first one makes it seem like this fun sci-fi action flick, and instead we get this slowly dragged on or politician talk about the environment, or the whale brains, or the immortality, or the immortality, or the mining, or the mining, or the mining. Hey, this gray rock mine's all the source we have. Oh, the whale brains will give us immortality. Immortality, blah, blah, fucking blah, 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 environmental bullshit. Like, this movie should have been called that South Park parody Dancing with the Smurfs, not Asatar, or Shit-tar, or Avatar. Like, James Cameron wishes his shitty Avatar movies were this trilogy. He badly wishes, like, I swear to fuck he wishes the Avatar movies he did were Lord of the Rings. He wishes. It's my opinion. And people are gonna get all pissy and have their feelings hurt, but it's my opinion, so deal with it. Regardless, like, Lord of the Rings Return of the King is another cinematic masterpiece that will always be adored by cinema goers, and it will always be the best franchise finale to any movie ever. In the end, Return of the King is no doubt the second best movie ever made, and I don't need to say it's worth watching and buying, because it is worth watching and buying for any fan of this trilogy. Anyways, that's it for my review of Lord of the Rings Return of the King, and if you're any hungry Lord of the Rings Return of the King, here's how I am definitely going to rate this movie. So overall, if you loved the first two and are ready to see how it all wraps up, then absolutely get on the second greatest movie ever made to epically wrap it all up. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Return of the King, I'm going to give easily Return of the King, obviously, a fucking 10 out of fucking 10. Alright, here we go, we did it. We reviewed the Lord of the Rings trilogy finally. Well, Middle-earth's not over yet because, well, we still have the Hobbit trilogy to do next. And, I'm not too excited for this Hobbit trilogy, guys, because I did see them back when they came out, and I liked the first film. Desolation of Smaug was, nah. Did not like Battle of the Five Armies. Okay? The rest after Unexpected Journey I don't like. So I'm not too excited to do this one, but that's not going to come till January, guys. That's going to have to be saved to kick off 2024. Because we're not going to have time to do that. But, yeah. Lord of the Rings is done. That was awesome. That was fun to review this whole trilogy, finally. And what's better, we reviewed Return of the King on its 20th anniversary. So happy 20th anniversary to the second greatest movie of cinema and the greatest third movie ever made. The Lord of the Rings, it will always be an influence on cinema goers and filmmakers. It'll always be there for many generations to come, and I cannot wait for many more generations to experience the greatness it is. So then, guys, that'll be it for this epic movie review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone, and to end this off, pressure.